wanted to come back, so Mike, let's go.
What I wanted to talk about. The article said, "It never gets better" was the title. I don't remember where it was. It could have been The Verge or somewhere like that. And it talked about buying devices, hoping for the upgrade that's going to deliver the promise. And I just saw, I read a quick bit of it. And I think it was about Android and how many people buy the current phone looking for the ice cream sandwich update that is going to deliver the world. And so I've had this phone for a few months from US Cellular, the Galaxy S2, and I really couldn't find a nice way to do a full review because I have other US Cellular things, and the signal was totally different. This thing had a useless antenna. I could never get a GPS lock on anything. It wasn't compatible with a bunch of stuff. There was just problem after problem after problem.
Was the hardware or US Cellular?
It's a specific hardware. So this is, the way Samsung did this is no two Galaxy S2s are the same. So somebody else's S2 is compatible with Hulu. This one is Netflix. It's just up and down games.
And this is all under the same banner of Samsung S2.
Yes.
I had no idea it was that fragmented.
Either 14 or 17, I can't remember, models.
And none of them are the same.
And there are some that are just international variants, but there is at least 7 unique screen size, memory, processor.
And it's all the same thing.
No, that's ridiculous, right?
Yeah, oh, I do. It's kind of so I mean, I had a problem with it, and you'd ask somebody, and they'd go, "Oh, that app works for me. It must be your problem." No, it's the fragmented device. But this week they put out an update. And everybody thought at first it was the ice cream sandwich update, but it wasn't. It was just this tiny little thing. And all of a sudden, the signal strength doubled. I used it as a GPS to get down here. It's like in your phone.
Wow.
And so we talked.
But how long after you got it did that happen?
4 to 6 months.
So you got something that was effectively broken.
And it's been an
Right,
iPod.
right.
Yeah, it's
Right.
Well,
he had.
Yeah, I mean, this has been an iPod in the car for
Right.
the majority of the time, or the kids play games with it. But we talked about the Mango update to the Windows Phone and the impact that's had. I was just wondering, is there something else that you guys have seen?
This is the HTC One X.
Yeah.
HTC did a great thing. They actually narrowed to 3 Android phones. And they're really good phones. So I got a really nice back showcase for this. It doesn't fit. Why doesn't it fit? Because the international version of it is slightly different than the US version. So the accessories don't match. Which is, say what you want about Apple, but the 6.0 update is going to leave only a couple of their iOS devices behind. It's going to leave the first iPhone behind, it leaves the first iPad behind, which is a hardware restriction because the first iPad just doesn't have the RAM and the oomph to. But anytime they can bring along the other products, they have, and we're the ones who had the iPhone 4 and not the 4S for so long, from day one. All of our accessories
Still
work perfectly.
Of course, they may not with iPhone 5.
And that's okay.
Right.
And that's okay. We had 2 full product cycles
Yes.
of using the same accessories.
Yes.
And that gets you through a standard contract, and that's really what you want.
I didn't even think about the contract.
That's actually, well, that's why I'm thinking about it from the perspective of the average person and not those of us who are jumping from device to device. I mean,
Right.
for the average person, you're buying a phone, you're holding it for the 2-year contract. Just on the subject of updates though, and this was before I was really writing for Gear Diary, but at one point I had a Samsung FX, which is a Windows mobile phone. It was the most disastrous phone I have ever used. It had GPS issues, it had some stability issues, and what happened is that AT&T released an update to fix some of the issues. But it could only be updated from a Windows computer. At the time, only that Mac. Okay, fine. So I go to Sarah's house, go try to use her computer. Can only be updated from a Windows computer that uses the Intel processor, and her computer had an AMD processor. It's getting ridiculous. I'm on the phone with AT&T, I'm basically saying to them, you gotta do something. And they're like, oh, go to one of the stores and they'll update it for you. So wouldn't update it. So then I go back and forth with them, finally they agree to send me a replacement one that already has the update. Of course, the update has made it so much worse that it's completely unusable, so they tell me it must be a mistake, they send me another phone. At this point, I'm basically livid with AT&T and Samsung and everybody. And the operator promised me, if this one doesn't work, we'll send you a different phone entirely. Pick what you want. Yeah.
And I thought,
Of course, okay, that's when I ended up with the Nokia E71X, because I still wanted the physical keyboard.
Right.
And that was actually a decent phone. I mean, I ended up phasing back out of it, but I ended up with the Droid at some point. But it was at least a decent phone, at least it worked.
Right.
It wasn't perfect, but at least it worked. It was like, every time Samsung and AT&T tried to fix that darn Epix, they just made it worse every single time.
This is one of the reasons why every other phone that I try, I seem to always come back to the iPhone. The fact that there's only one upgrade per year, there's only one phone running this operating system. There may not be every feature that I want in this phone, and if I had my druthers, it'd be a 4.3-inch screen, or at least a 4-inch screen.
Right.
But it's consistent, it keeps working, works with the same accessories, and I don't have to worry about the fact that if you have an iPhone, your iPhone is running different apps than I can run on my iPhone because there's fragmentation within the brand. There is none.
Right.
Unless you have the first generation and we're now fixing to be on.
And that's what you expect. You expect as
Exactly.
time goes on.
I've never seen a company take care of the people so far behind as Apple has done. The fact that you can have
Right.
a 3 running one of the later operating systems or a 3GS.
The 3GS is going to get 6.0. It's not going to have all the features,
There you go.
but it's going to run it.
The fact that it can even run it though, and the fact that they're offering it to them for free as far
For
as
free.
people,
They
there
had
you
one
go.
time when they charged for an update
And
for
then
the
they
iPod
didn't do it
Touch,
again,
and
correct?
they changed their account.
Okay, so there you go. To get updated, to have that kind of product longevity.
Say what
Who
you
else
want.
does that?
Say what you want about Apple and the walled garden, but they actually show a degree of respect for their consumers
Agreed.
that we're not seeing from other places.
I was asking not only that, but like last night we were playing with your HTC phone and it started to update itself. If anything had gone wrong during that update, you would have been on the phone with AT&T arguing with them about it because that's all you can do. And they would have sent you HTC and you got it. At AT&T, it would have been a huge problem. If you went to update your iPhone and there was a problem, you show up in the local mall and you say, it didn't update right. And somebody fixed it.
Yeah.
Alana walked in with a keyboard that I won't even go into the story because it was one of it ended up being one of those is it plugged in stories. But the guy took it back, figured out what was wrong and why I was a moron, and then but he did it for her on the spot and didn't make her feel like her husband is an idiot, which is true, but
And
that's
none of us
okay.
have
Ever done anything like that? You know, I want everybody's stories if I'm going to use this. Here's the other thing. I've got 2 iPads, I've got an iPhone, I've got this iPod Touch, and they all run the same apps. I'm able to, and what it does for me also is, and a lot of us have this now, I'm able to go, it doesn't matter what device I pick up, I can do the task I want to do without thinking about it too much. And as time has gone on, I've actually organized my apps pretty similarly on all the devices.
Yeah. And you can share photos, and you can share notes, and you can share music, whatever you need to do between your Apple devices.
And
It's
photo
great.
streaming. And photo streaming is going to have shared photo streams now, which means that if we're shooting different products and somebody has a product that someone else on the site's writing about, we can actually share that stream of products.
Which is awesome.
Which is. What else, Mike?
Well, I know we got into a discussion about case accessories and the hypothetical iPhone 5
And the end of life.
And the end of-
life accessories.
Right, and you were talking about how you don't understand how somebody can justifiably put out an iPhone case.
And Judy had a good counter argument, but here was the argument. The argument was, how do you have, but it was a good argument, but I don't know that I buy it completely. At this point in the product cycle of the iPhone 4 and the iPhone 4S, I know that there are a lot of them out there. They will probably keep selling the iPhone 4S as their lower end phone.
They're still selling the 3GS.
And they're still selling the 3GS. I'm a little skeptical about products that are promised to come to market for the iPhone 4S at this point, especially, for example, on Kickstarter, and backing a case or some other product for the iPhone 4S now, knowing that once funding is done, say a month from now, so now we're into August, and then it may take 3, 4, 5 months for the product to come to market, the product won't come to market until the iPhone 5, whatever it looks like, is out for a couple months.
See, I think this is different, for, again, like we were just saying, for Apple products versus everybody else. Started talking about cases for the Kindle Fire. Why would somebody introduce a new thing for the Kindle Fire when you're speculating within the next month we're going to see a new one? Or say Samsung Galaxy Tab. Why would you put out something that's 6 months old, is now more expensive than the Nexus 7, so therefore you know Samsung is sitting there saying, okay, within the next 3 to 6 months we're going to make that thing useless and have a new product. Why do you want to put out something new for that?
Can I interrupt for a second? What was the time frame you just gave? I think that's really interesting because none of us even blinked when you said it, and it's such a ridiculous time frame. Within the next
Month for the Fire, 3 to 6 for...
3 to 6. The fact that something is not even, is just shipping now, and we all know that 3 to 6 months is end of product for it,
That's why I don't want to buy one.
But at the same time, I think in the case of iPhone cases, it also comes back to the fact that what we do with our phones is not what everybody else does with their phones.
Well, we
If I
showed
bought
with the 2-year,
right.
surprising the 2-year
What if I
contract.
bought a 4S last, if I'm Sarah and I bought a 4S in April, and I'm gonna have it for the next year and a half, do I care if it takes another 3 months for me to get a particular case? When you use it for another year, it's worth it.
Right.
Like, not everybody is gonna run out and buy the 5 immediately, especially because of when the 4S came out, and how long the demand was for that. I think also, like, and we were talking about before with the OtterBox Armor case that's coming out. Yes, it's an incredibly expensive case to come out for a phone that is basically going to be obsolete at some point in the next
Let me ask
6
you a
months.
question. As an average consumer though, and I
You
need to
don't think
remember
about that.
back to the day though when you didn't sit there and think about, okay, I've got another phone I've got to review, whatever. If you were about to purchase a phone, and if somebody said to you, there will not be another one of these for a year, okay, versus if someone said to you, this is the phone that's out right now, and in 6 months there'll be another one that's better, has a better camera, does all this other stuff, and has the new operating system. As an average consumer, if somebody said that to you, which one would you choose?
Probably if you could wait, you'd wait, but honestly, most
No,
people
there's no
don't
waiting.
care.
Buy it right now. This one will last a year. Buy it right now, 6 months, and there'll be a better one out. And
Yeah.
yours is now old.
And 6
I'd rather one
months
for
is
a year.
actually long.
I agree.
Android
It's
phone.
been 3 months on Android phones. It's been insane.
Yeah.
Who can even keep up? And I remember back when we used to buy the PDAs as they came out, and we thought that was fast. It was still every 6 months or so.
Was it 6 months?
Oh, yeah.
Everybody-
Yeah, and it was nutty, and that was hard to keep up with. But if you obviously as a reviewer, if you are having to purchase these, it's out of control, which is why we can't anymore. But
Right.
if you're a consumer, you want to know that the one that you've got is going to be great for the next however long. And if you know, if somebody actually tells you going into it, that one's going to be out of date in 3 months, this one's going to be out of date in 12. Which one would you choose?
But here's the thing, this one won't be out of date in 12, because this
Exactly,
will get
still
at
about
least
a
2
year
more
upgraded.
operating system
Yeah.
updates. This will get 6,
But-
it'll get 7, it might even get 8.
But how many times have we been told on these Android phones there'll be an update for it? How many times?
Well, I give
And
up
did it
believing that with
come?
Windows
Yeah.
Mobile. I give up believing that with
But
Windows
not even
Mobile.
that. You'll get the next operating system when it comes out. And how many times did it not happen?
Yeah.
A lot.
Because they
Because
have
they
to tweak it
Yeah.
to every single
Look,
unit.
everybody blames it on, okay, it's the carrier's fault, it's the whoever's fault. But I think that it's an issue between the manufacturers, the carriers, and with the platform itself. And so right there, you've got 3 different entities that are fighting each other. So how can the consumer ever win when you're talking about that kind of fragmentation? Instead, one manufacturer, one phone design,
Respect for the consumer,
one
Even though
operating
there's some
system
issues.
with different versions, and they all work unless it's a completely outdated model from, what year did it come out, 2007?
Right.
Okay?
and what's really funny is people immediately said when they saw the 3GS one of all the features of 6.0, they're like, oh, you see, Apple introduces fragmentation. That's not fragmentation.
It's a 4-year-old
That's,
phone. That
a
doesn't
4-year-old
anything
phone
for it.
doesn't have the hardware to run everything they can do now, so it's either we choose not to update at all, or we update it but don't let those features work. Android handset makers are saying we're not going to update at all. Apple's
Exactly.
saying we want to give you as much as we possibly can, given the limitations of your hardware.
And we won't even talk about Microsoft releasing a phone and then 2 months later saying, oh, and we're fixing to come out with the latest operating system and your beautiful Nokia Lumia 900, which is the flagship product. We'll give you a little bit of an update so you feel special, but you don't get the full version.
There were no iPhone users who were bigger supporters and encouragers of Windows Phone than you were.
That's absolutely true.
And I can't recommend it now.
I won't recommend that phone. I'm not sure if I'm totally done on the platform, but this is the second time they've done this. And honestly, as a consumer, because I paid for my Lumia,
Right.
I feel betrayed. And great, I'm going to get a new home screen, but you know what? I'm not really thrilled about the fact that everybody else is going to get something better.
Right, and I don't know that I'm done with the platform, but I'm done with it until 2013 for sure.
Oh, for sure.
And the fact
It's
that
a
we're
wait and
going to
see.
But
It's
how
a
do we
wait.
know? How do we know their next update? Is it going to be a complete ground-up revision
Well-
again? This is the second time they've done it.
And if I were a developer, I mean, what does
Oh,
Apple say
I've
to the
done
developers? Update your apps so that they can handle the Retina display.
Right.
Or update your apps so they can handle this new feature. They don't say, go back and rewrite your apps.
From the ground up.
And by the way, we understand that it costs you time and money, but that's your problem.
Yeah.
I don't know that they've got quite that attitude. I know that Microsoft is going to pour money into the developers community.
I hope
To
so.
be fair, and I believe that this new operating system that they're working on is going to make it where it's more upgradable than what they've done. I know that that is part of the reason why they're doing it the way that they're doing it. But I have to say that it is still a complete and just total lack of respect for the consumer and for the developers that this has been what they've done now twice. And when we all were sitting there breathing easy going, okay, Windows Phone is pretty good and Mango makes it even better. What's next? What do you have for me? Now it's getting
New operating system.
Next is
That's what we are, new operating system.
Yes.
So here's the thing, here's the one way I think Microsoft gets out of this. If they looked at everybody who's bought a Windows Phone in the last 12 months and they say, we are going to give you an incredibly subsidized deal. We've worked it out with your carrier to let you have an early upgrade, and we're going to cover half of the upgrade cost for you. They do that, and I think they've made good with their
What do you think the
consumers.
chances of that happening are?
Hell would freeze
I
over.
would say
Yes,
two chances, slim and none.
I would believe Nokia.
But that's what, that would work. It
I
would.
would believe that
Nokia.
Nokia would do that before I could see
Do they have
Microsoft
the
doing
cash?
it. They did it before, whenever there were issues with the Lumia 900 when it first came out.
Okay.
Whether you had issues with it or not, we
They
all
don't have the cash.
got $100. That's true, but
They
we
bring
all
you
got
the
a
cash.
$100 rebate. So the fact that they did that, to me, I have so much respect for Nokia for what they did when there was a customer service issue, and it wasn't even everybody's customer service issue. They took care of their customers.
So, here's the thought. I know we're taking Microsoft to task specifically, but are some of the low-end Android manufacturers any better? I mean,
No.
I talk to people when they ask me for advice on what kind of phone to get, and they go, oh, I can get this Android phone for $50. I'm like, save your money, and, don't bother. You're gonna hate that phone, it's gonna make you miserable, it's not worth it. And in some ways, it's almost like, I just tell people, look, expect to spend $200 on a phone.
Or get a
Or-
dumb phone and an iPod Touch.
Right, but you're still going to spend more money that way. I mean, the thing is, if the issue is, a lot of times the issue is not, it's more psychological of like, but I can get a phone for cheaper. It's not an issue of I can't spend the money, it's, but I can get a phone for cheaper, why do I have to spend the money?
Well, that's when they say the Lumia 900 is just $99. No, it's not.
Right.
Right, and I've done the math for them, like, look, if you spend $99 for an iPhone 4, or you spend $199 for a 4S, that equivalent is like $2 and change every month over the course of 2 years.
Right.
Right.
That is not enough money to feel like you're throwing away money because that 4S could last you 3 years, which lowers that cost even further versus the 4, which might only last you a year and a half.
Right.
Just in the product cycle of Apple support and things like that, you may end up losing features faster on the 4 than the 4S.
Yeah.
Buy the highest end phone you can. It doesn't always, it'll backfire in some cases, like with Microsoft
can.
Windows, but
Buy the best product, buy the most storage, the
absolutely.
fastest that you can afford.
And
And
at the very
no
worst, when you go to resell it because you want to buy something new, you'll get a better resale rate.
And no matter how good the subsidy is, there's no such thing as free lunch. If you're signing to your
Exactly.
contract and somebody's giving, and a carrier is giving you a free phone, not from Amazon or one of the third parties, when Verizon is telling you we have a free Android phone, run. It is not a good idea.
And it will be bad phone.
Let's talk for a second about RIM. Who?
I think that I
Wasn't
said
it
it
something
in
back in the
last
90s or
month.
something?
Let's talk about how a company could miss so badly, and especially when they were just hit with a multi-hundred and whatever
Is
million
it
dollar.
31, 31?
I'm not sure.
I don't know. We don't know enough about it on that
Also, the
scale.
other interesting news that I didn't read in detail was that there's new evidence that both AT&T and Verizon went to them, and I guess to Nokia, to try to develop, to try to carrier subsidize iPhone phones, like from 2007,
Mhm.
because they didn't like the control, especially AT&T, that they were ceding to Apple.
Well, remember the
Well,
first
you can
iPhone, the one that we got, okay? We bought from Apple full price. There was
Right.
no subsidy. And it was going to be a whole new model for how you sell phones. And after a year of it, Apple turned around and said, you know what, we want the numbers, so we're going to go the subsidy route.
Right.
So, but, I mean, what do you think, Grim? How much longer are they going to exist? I know we don't do predictions on the site. How much longer?
As a hardware software giant entity, I'd say they would be lucky to see 2013, but I think that they're going to try to channel into a new way of doing things that goes either Microsoft or Android.
I'm not going to guess when they die because every time I've guessed I've been wrong. They keep hanging on. It's like somebody's giving them a lifeline of some kind. But they keep stumbling, keep making bad decisions, keep releasing products that make no sense. And the fact that they should be dead, and they should have been dead a while ago, and the fact that they're still holding on, I don't know. Will they make it to 2014? We'll see.
RIM to me just looks and smells like Palm did a couple of years ago.
Right.
It's the same idea. It's, well, we have something new, we have something new, we have something new, and we're totally going to squander whatever new we have. I mean, they haven't even released the new BlackBerry 10 yet, but the playbook is essentially the RIM version of the Palm Pixie. It's the really, why did you release that? Who thought this was a good idea? Who had Palm sat
You
down and
made
said,
your business on email and, oh, it doesn't have a native email client.
exactly. It's the same thing as Palm looking and saying, okay, we're getting our butts kicked by large screen phones with full touch screens and all these things. We're gonna make the tiniest freaking phone we can.
Alana loved hers though.
I liked it.
I tell you,
loved
if
it.
it had double the processor
Better
speed,
picture
it
her
might
like
still be
Centra.
useful.
Yeah.
Her Centra,
Yeah,
Shelter
we're talking
Centra,
about
right.
the Pixie.
Right.
It's smaller.
Oh.
I actually like the Pixie, I have to say.
Yeah,
but
we
it
both
was-
have one. It was cute. But
Yeah, what phone do you use? You didn't like it that much.
Yeah,
Well,
it
actually,
it was like,
I guess the telling thing is I tried to hand it out to my wife and well, it lasted a week.
it was
So,
a cool
it was dog slow.
idea,
But-
Not really.
but it was an
But-
interesting idea. It just didn't
But
have.
Palm had value. At this point, I mean, I don't know business and I don't know this sort of side of things at all. But I'd be hard pressed to see anyone buying RIM.
I think the problem is that for whatever value Palm had, the cautionary tale, again, because I do think they look like Palm, the cautionary tale is, what has HP done since they bought Palm? I mean, they didn't do anything with it. So
Yeah, they did. They
any-
produced some
well,
stuff and they
that's-
killed it.
That's what I mean.
And they had a really good fire sale.
Yeah.
They did,
Right.
but this is the thing, is that if you look at that as the last example of a struggling cell phone company that maybe had a potential idea if you could just pump a lot of money into it, the only example you really have is Palm, and that went nowhere, so who's going to step up and make another gamble on that?
The only one who might would be, possibly, we're hearing all these rumors about Amazon coming out with a phone. Does it run Android? Does it run the same operating system
Better not.
version of Android? Or are they developing the hardware and they're going to turn around and buy RIM?
See, that would be interesting, only because...
I don't, based on nothing, obviously, but I'm trying to think, who would Amazon have, what operating system would they run on their phone?
That would be an interesting one. The only issue that Amazon would have is that they've invested a lot of money into the Amazon App Store, and it would be difficult to migrate people over. The only difference, though, is that Amazon is really good at doing things seamlessly in the background. Like, for example, your book gets corrected with a copy editing
Yeah.
issue, and they'll send you an email and just say, just go ahead and
Yes.
download it, we'll fix
Right.
it. I could see them slowly trying to transition, especially since the BlackBerry Playbook system could run some Android apps. I could see them.
Eventually, a year after it came
Well,
out.
but that's not important to Amazon.
Just saying.
This is important to Amazon now though, because they could theoretically transition it where it could be the Amazon App Store will run apps simultaneously, and then they could go behind the scenes to developers and slowly help them transition over to a native platform. And one day flip the switch and nobody would notice.
I think that he who over expects from RIM right now is doomed. I think he who underestimates Amazon is doomed. I think they're a really smart company, and whatever play they're going to make in the phone market, it's going to be a good play.
The other thing is that Amazon treats people, the reason why people love Amazon is because they treat people well, and they treat your wallet well.
Right.
And that's the big thing. Anytime Amazon has made a mistake, even their biggest mistake, I think, was the 1984 debacle where they pulled the books and everything else.
Yeah.
But since then, they have worked so carefully to rebuild their reputation. They have said, we are never going to touch another book on your devices. We will never ever do it again. We will send you an email. We will make sure that you initiate any changes. They have really gone out of their way to offer credits. Anytime you have a problem, if you email Amazon and you say, this book was edited so horribly I can't even read it, they will give you a credit for it.
And they will also now tell you how many books your book, or how many devices your book will work on.
Exactly.
Which is something they didn't do.
They have gone
Yeah,
out
that's
of their
fine.
way to try and make everything, and if there's a complaint, they will try to fix it.
Right.
And I think that's the thing that makes Amazon very dangerous, is that they're so hungry for your business that they have the resources and they have the intelligence and they have the customer service drive to make you a loyal customer because they can.
Right.
They don't care really how they have to do it. If they have to change how they do business, they'll change how they do business. They'll do whatever they need to do to make people shop there, and that's what makes them such a huge threat, because Barnes & Noble can huff and puff, and everybody else can huff and puff, but the reality is that Amazon is making it so much easier and friendlier to do business with them that it makes it really hard to justify going anywhere else.
And that's why I think Google is going to see such a struggle with the Nexus 7. And I keep talking about their ecosystem. Amazon cares about you, not in the whole way that Apple does, but in a different way. Whereas I just never get the feeling that Google gives a crap about me, except for,
Your data.
except for my data to sell to
That they
somebody
can
else.
sell.
So that's why they can get up and say, oh, we're going to guarantee upgrades for a year and a half. Well, 3 phones came out, this one and then the 2 Razors, basically within a month of each other. Those other 2 got updated. this one, who knows, someday, it will.
And will you still be using that phone
Well,
someday?
Motorola no longer cares about it. You know,
Well-
Verizon has botched every upgrade they tried to do on operating systems, and Google really doesn't care.
Even worse, look at the Bionic. I mean, before I was totally committed to the
I
OS,
really feel bad for
that
Verizon.
was, I could briefly consider the Bionic, and I'm so glad I didn't do it, because I would have lost my shit all over Verizon Bionic, because they just completely botched it, and then they were like, oh, we screwed up, here's the Razr Max instead, like, that, you know.
Razr Max is kind of cool though.
Razr Max is kind of cool, but I would never trust Motorola or Google or Verizon again after the way they botched, because the Razr Max, right, the Razr Max is what the Bionic should have been. They didn't have to go through 2 other phones to get to that. If you have to go through 2 other phones to get a phone that's pretty decent and can actually do what you want to do, then you released your phone too soon.
Look, it's right, this is a really good phone with a really good camera and really good sound, and I carry an iPhone.